Kyle, like you, I went K through 12 in Taylor schools. I went through in the 70s and 80s, so I was there the year school didn't start in September because of funding. I took all my books home from high school because if millage didn't pass, they were closing the other high schools and we were going to 2 shifts. So I understand that this is very hard. My question is, you laid out the timeline. Did you follow the Open Meetings Act? Because there are no minutes from any of those meetings that indicate that the board was aware of this deficit. There was no indication in any minutes that the board asked for this plan to be put together or that the plan was put together for the board. If a quorum of the board is together to discuss any board business, that has to be publicized and it has to be made available to the public. I found nothing on that. So you mentioned illegal activity. Has this plan been handled legally? We've talked a lot about transparency at the last board meeting, and what I'm seeing is illegal lack of transparency because nothing was addressed per the Open Meeting Act, which I know people on council who said, well, we can't get together and talk about these things because if we do, it has to be public, there has to be minutes, it has to be an agenda. I see none of that on any of the board information online. That is my question.
That's your, okay. So to answer your question, all of this was done in a legal format. So there was never a time when the board met outside of a public meeting with more than 4 individuals. There was not a time where the board discussed this plan as a full group or a full body. A lot of this was one-on-one individual. A lot of this was me speaking with the cabinet level, district cabinet. And then from there, a lot of it was discussed during meetings, during the closed sessions under attorney-client privilege. But I can't really go into full scope of what that is because it's closed session and it's protected.
How can it be attorney-client privilege if it's not related to a lawsuit or there's not an attorney in play? This is
because there's multiple. The state of Michigan has multiple points of what you can go into closed sessions for. School closures or school sales or anything of that nature is one of those. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Magna Briggs, 15542 Rita. Okay, so my question was, we decided to put the high school at North Line because ease of traffic instead of at the OTC because it was a bigger, easier to get in and out. So combining 6th grade academy, which I do love the 6th grade academy, and the middle school together instead of taking it to Hoover or the high school doesn't make sense to me. Second, behind Hoover, they got that new development. Are you guys looking to sell Hoover? Third, what of our I don't know how to say it right, our millage rate for the bond compared to Woodhaven bonds. Do we know how many extra bonds Woodhaven has to Taylor and what the millage rate is? And is not all the bond language on the state of Michigan website? And Catch Sooner, you already got. Playgrounds, you already addressed. And going back to West and Hoover, doesn't make sense to me. West is an older building. Hoover's a newer building. You've got ease of access. You've got Inkster right there, plus you got Beverly. West, you only got the 2 side streets. That doesn't make sense to me. The Career Center in Titan. So once you move everything out of the Career Center / pupil building, is that going to be demolished when we get the new high school? So let's talk about Taylor High. You're talking about demolishing it when we get the new one and keeping West instead of keeping Hoover, correct? Is that what we're thinking?
I just want to make, is that all the questions before we dive in?
Money. Oh, and just because you're young doesn't make you inexperienced, not qualified. Oh, and then everything went to shit in crap in August, correct? September?
I can answer that after.
All right. Taylor High, Hoover, selling. I think that's it.
Okay. So do you want to go first?
Well, I was going to jump in with the, because you asked a lot about the Hoover versus West and that choice being made there. So essentially, When you're thinking about the traffic patterns there, I mean, as it currently stands, when you're running Kenyon and West at the same time, and I'll go back to when I was a teacher at West, we were up to about 800, 900 students in that facility at the time, and then you had that, 400 and some at Kenyon. So it was always been able to handle the amount that it would handle now as a combined facility. Like I'm
But
less
does
worried
it
about
make
that.
sense?
Well, yeah, that's a whole other item, but I would say, like, in terms of the traffic piece, like, it can handle those pieces. As for when we're talking about using those choices, the issue with Hoover becomes, even though it is a newer facility and it has a lot more of the upgrades and it has those things, it's truly the size. It does not have the student capacity that a combined Kenyon and West would. And even just on flat out comparison for size for students between Hoover and West has the bigger student capacity.
Okay, but again, with our climate the way it is and everything, I'm talking about, it gets hot in West. It gets darn hot.
Oh yeah,
So
I
why
taught
are we
upstairs
moving
there.
our kids to an unair conditioned school instead of to the high school, to the high now, or to Hoover? You know it gets hot in West. It gets hot in all of them.
So I can answer that one specifically. It goes back to the building size. When we look at Hoover, those students, not all the middle school students can fit
Then
into
why aren't we
Hoover.
taking them to the high school?
So the reason why we're not doing that is because when we looked at the utilization rate, the high school couldn't fit about 2,500 students in it. We're expected to only have about 980 to 1,000 kids. So that means that the half of that building would be vacant
Okay,
or empty.
my other question on that though is, most of our parents moved in here in the 70s.
Mhm.
They are still here. They're gonna start dying. People are gonna start moving in. What happens when the growth comes back? Because that's why one of the reasons why we have this low is because all of our parents moved here in the 70s. They're all still here. They're 80s, 90s, between 70 and 90. So what happens when them schools, when them housing starts selling, and then you start getting more kids back in?
So I can tell you that really currently in the city of Taylor, the way that the school district is sized, there's 12,000 right now school age children in the city of Taylor.
Correct.
Only 5,500 of those students attend Taylor schools.
Okay.
So more than half don't attend Taylor schools. So the notion, right now, I would love to say that we're having such a high influx of kids that we can plan and expand and make sure when we move those kids into that high school that it's not at a 42% utilization, but it's at the state recommendation of 80% to 90%. We can't say that. And financially, that would be gambling the district's finances on this notion that we're going to be able to gain another 1,000 students at that middle school level. We can't take that because financially the school district can't go down that path
All right.
with the situation we're in.
And I'll say this too, because we've kind of had this discussion because that is a big what if. I will say at the elementary level, we do currently have 2 other elementaries that are still in our possession that we lease out currently. So if that were to be the case, and I would love for that to be the case, we do have that ability to start to handle that bubble if we have to do that. Because, and granted, those buildings would need a lot of tender loving care, like they would need some updates, but we currently have 2 buildings that are also in our possession.
Okay. And then do you know the bonds, the difference
Yeah,
in
I was gonna
bonds?
say, I was looking back at my questions that I wrote down here. I'm gonna say offhand, I don't know what that comparison would be to
No.
Woodhaven Brownstown, but I'd be glad to look into it and
Yeah.
give
Can
you
you
some
see
answers
what,
on it.
they have a sinking bond too, a sinking fund too, I think?
Yeah, I was gonna say, they
All
have
right,
a
and that
few.
goes strictly for
Yeah.
repairs,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
And I
Correct.
think they passed 2 bonds within the last
Mhm.
20 years,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Well, it might have been more.
I know it's been 2
Yes.
bonds in the last 20 years, and that's to do all their upgrades to
Yes.
the schools, plus the sinking bond fund too.
Too.
Correct. And then our bonds issue, whatever, that's on the state of Michigan website, correct?
Yes, so it's all transparent. I mean, I believe, and pass it over to our CFO.
Well, the PQ application, we can give you a copy of it. It's all state information in terms of what was passed for the school district. $130 million bond was passed. You know,
But that's on the state website and it tells you where it's, what's allocated for what, correct?
you know what, I want to make it clear that the PQ application is more detailed than the election language.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, you're not gonna see all the detail.
Correct.
You know, when you go to vote. The design is, you know, you only get, you know, vague information and so much information. And the PQ application is a little bit more detailed, but we still have wiggle room to do, you know, what we need to do in terms of the bond, which vets back to what you voted for.
Okay. And let's get back to Hoover one more time.
No, I was gonna say, I was looking at my on here, so we're still utilizing Hoover in the plan,
Yes.
like, that's gonna be where Randall, is
Yeah.
relocated to, so,
Well,
no intentions of
You
selling
know, they
Hoover.
just developed all
Yeah. Oh,
around.
I know,
And I'm like,
absolutely.
they're eyeing that.
No, it would become an elementary school under
Okay.
this plan.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.